Are any of us smart enough to maneuver this confusing world alone? Without help from those who are smarter, the future can look downright scary. So, in a world filled with billions of conflicting voices, where do we turn for the smartest help? In 2014, then Elder Russell M. Nelson chaired the Missionary Executive Council, or the MEC. One day in the MEC, Elder Nelson held up his smartphone and he said, "We need to put a smartphone into the hands of every missionary." You can imagine the discussion that ensued about all the challenges missionaries with smartphones would create. But in time, the MEC began allowing missionaries in a few test missions to carry smartphones or iPads. Every problem the MEC predicted happened, every one. But Elder Nelson never wavered in his conviction that missionaries could be taught to use the internet righteously and that they should have smartphones. Now, fast forward to January of 2020. That month, President Russell M. Nelson, now president of the church, authorized every missionary worldwide to have a smartphone. Then, just 3 weeks later, the pandemic shut down the world and proselyting as we knew it stopped. Elder Brent H. Nielsen, then executive director of the missionary department, was initially concerned that baptisms might drop to nearly zero, but they didn't. Inspired missionaries, and it might have been some of you, working from their apartments, found and baptized 125,000 people in 2020, the pandemic year, largely because they had smartphones. Says Elder Brent H. Nielsen, "I quickly learned that the Lord had prepared us for this day. Prophets can see around corners." Prophets see things we cannot see, because the Lord does nothing but he revealeth his secret unto his servants, the prophets. This is why prophets make us smarter than any other leaders or influencers on earth. Prophets help us see dangers we cannot yet see and opportunities we can't even imagine. I have experienced this myself. In the October 1998 General Conference, President Gordon B. Hinckley admonished members to get out of debt. I felt that I should try to pay off my home, but my accountant told me I was crazy to even think about it because the interest rate on my mortgage was so low. Nonetheless, I finally decided to take President Hinckley at his word and just do it. It took some scrimping for several years, but I managed to pay off the loan. Now, skip ahead to the fall of 2008, exactly 10 years after President Hinckley's warning about debt, when the U.S. economy was suddenly plunged into a recession. I was still the CEO of Deseret Book at that time, and our sales plummeted. I was worried sick about saving jobs, and frankly, about saving the company. But one evening, as I drove home with the all too familiar pit in my stomach, it dawned on me that despite all the pressure I was under, I wasn't worried at all about myself. I owned my own home, and I owed no money, all because I had followed a prophet's counsel 10 years earlier. A prophet helped me see around the corner. Two years ago, I saw President Russell M. Nelson see something I could not see. On September 17th, 2020, I was among those invited to a communications meeting with President Nelson. The pandemic was raging, and we suggested to President Nelson that he record a message of hope for church members. He told us to, quote unquote, sprinkle a little fertilizer on that idea and bring it back to him the following week. But then the very next day, President Nelson asked to meet with our group again. He told us that our idea wasn't bad, it just wasn't right. During the night, he had received the impression that he should indeed record a message, but a message for the world, not just members. He said his message should be about gratitude and include a prayer for the world. He told us the exact day and time the video should be released, and even how long it should be. I had never heard President Nelson be so specific about communication details. But as he spoke, I knew that I was witnessing a prophet act on revelation. We assembled a team of videographers and others to fulfill President Nelson's instructions. If this group had relied on their own expertise, they would have never recommended a video as long as the one President Nelson specified, nor would they have suggested releasing it on a Friday, the worst day to release one. But a prophet had spoken, and so we went to work. The result was the hashtag Give Thanks video released on November 20th, 2020. And the results? Unprecedented. That video's reach dwarfed anything the church had ever released, especially to those not of our faith. Never in the history of the earth had so many people heard a prophet's voice. Prophets see around corners. Prophets take their instructions from him who knows all, sees all, and understands all things. More than once, I've personally heard President Nelson deflect praise for all of the adjustments that have occurred during his administration. Well, I can take instructions, he always says, meaning he is always on the Lord's errand. In this church, we are never dependent solely upon mortal men, as inspired as they may be. When we follow the prophet, we are actually following and placing our trust in Jesus Christ.